Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey. The USA Grand Prix is well underway. We have just had free practice one. Well, the only practice session they're going to get because it's a sprint weekend. And we have sprint qualifying coming up in about two and a half hours. So let's dive right in. Now, I know there might not be loads to discuss from practice sessions, but this is the only practice session they're getting before it is just full on action. Like as I said, I've got 2.5 hours and then it's straight into qualifying. So there is a lot that this practice session kind of alludes to, and it's quite exciting. I'm very much looking forward to the rest of this weekend after today, because my boys in red were cooking something, weren't they? Now, before we get into what happened during the actual session, let's talk about a few bits of news that have come out over the course of this week. Now, the first off is that Formula One has decided to take away the point for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix from 2025 onwards. Now, I don't know what's prompted this decision. I don't know whether I don't agree with some of the tactics that could be sort of put in play that we've seen for many years, to be honest, of teams using other drivers, or in Red Bull's case, potentially a whole other team, to steal away the point for the fastest lap from, the championship rivals. I don't really agree with it, to be honest with you. I do enjoy the point for the fastest lap. I think it adds a fun tactic to the races where, say you do have this championship battle. We've seen it so much in 2021 where, there was the conversation of, right, we're going to have to pit somebody because we need to get the fastest lap away from them, and it doesn't even necessarily need to go to our driver that is in the fight. Let's give our other driver that's maybe not even in the points the fastest lap. Obviously, the fastest lap point is only for the drivers within the top 10. I don't see it as being so much of a problem, but obviously F1 does see it being a problem that drivers in lowly positions can steal away the point for fastest lap from those at the front of the field. And if that's the case, then why don't you just make it like the fastest lap from the drivers within the top 10? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the point for fastest lap goes to the driver, any driver within the top 10 that gets the fastest lap, but only drivers within the top 10. Like, it only affects those drivers, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I think it's a bit of a weird one, but that's it. From 2025, no fastest lap point. The next that we need to talk about is Red Bull, who, God, there's just not a week goes by, there's not something about that team for us to talk about. And it's obviously come out, now there was rumours going around for ages about a team that had something on the car that the FIA was investigating. It turned out to be the bib tray on the Red Bull car, and that Red Bull had the ability to change the ride height of the car from within the car. Now, this is not an illegal component. All of these cars have it. The only difference is that Red Bull's is within their car. All the other cars are external. And Red Bull have come out and been very honest and have said, yep, do you know what? This is us, but we will make the necessary changes we need to make. We know our part is not illegal. We are not breaking any rules. The way we use this component can only be done when the car is not fully assembled. So if the car is fully assembled, i.e. within Parc Fermé, we're grand. Like, we're obviously not using it in any way that breaks Parc Fermé rules, which is obviously against the regulations, and it is illegal to do anything like that. They're pretty happy. They're like, yep, do you know what? That's fine. It is obviously quite a crucial time to be making changes to your car. Like, when the championship is pretty close, we've got 6 races left. I think between the races and the sprints, there's about 100 and... I want to say it's maybe about 130 points. I don't know, my maths isn't that good. But, any slight changes to these cars can throw them off. They're such fine-tuned machines. It's a bit of an odd one. Obviously, on the other side of this, you have McLaren, and Zach Brown was in conversation with Danica Patrick. I don't really want to talk about her return to the Sky Sports broadcast this weekend, especially because I am viciously hungover today. Viciously hungover. So if at any point I don't really seem with it, it's because I am exhausted and I'm hanging on by a thread, to be honest. The only thing that really got me through today was Formula One's return. Let's just put it that way. So he, was in conversation with Danica Patrick as they came into the circuit together, and he had said, listen, he's like, it's not an illegal part. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, they say we can't access that bit with the car being fully assembled. And Zach Brown has said, well, when you're in Parc Fermé, the car isn't always fully assembled. You can still make changes to the car for things like driver comfort. That's fine. It's not like anything that will change the performance of the car that you can do. And they could be, making changes to the ride height of the car to, benefit in between the qualifying session where they would want the ride height to be very low so that they can get as much speed and as much downforce. They've obviously got low fuel quantities in qualifying as well, so they can run the car a bit lower. You would want to run the car a bit lower, sorry. But then when you come to full fuel load and it weighing the car down, it would be beneficial to be able to raise the ride height of the car so that you don't scrape the plank of the floor, which is the reason, if that wears away too much, you get disqualified, which is why Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton got disqualified last year, because the plank of the car had worn away. There's like a bit of wood, had worn away too much. Does that all make sense? Fantastic. So he's basically saying that, is there a chance that Red Bull are lowering the ride height of their car for qualifying to get as much performance out of it, which is fine, grand, but you would then need to run that ride height throughout the Grand Prix. But he believes that there could be a chance that they are then raising the ride height of the car without anybody knowing, because it's happening inside of the car that nobody can see, and it's then benefiting them in a different way in the Grand Prix. Christian Horner has come out and has said, it's all rubbish. That's not how things work. It's not how it works. The component that does that, they would actually need to remove the pedals from the car to be able to access it. It's not like a dashboard feature or some feature in and around the cockpit. It's in past the driver's feet. It's, what Formula One's like. It's all a bit of games between these teams. And I agree with a lot of the commentators. I think Jensen said it. I think Martin Brundle said it. Simon agreed. And I agree with Zach that there needs to be a proper investigation from the FIA into this. Because, as Zach Brown said, if the FIA didn't deem it to be anything, they wouldn't have said anything, and there wouldn't be any talk about it. And it's also sealed, and there's all sort of smoke and mirrors going on. So there's definitely something that is worthy of an investigation. That is where we're at with that. We will obviously keep you updated should anything arise. And let's get into the practice session. My God, I've missed the sound of F1 cars. I've really missed the sound of F1 cars. Obviously, it's the only practice session, so we did get a good mix of race runs and then some quali runs towards the end. So everyone started pretty much on a hard tyre, minus a few. I will say the McLaren, if you thought the Alpine looked like a McLaren in their promo shots, if you see it on track, my God, did I constantly get confused between the Alpine and the McLaren? Yeah, I did. I did, to be honest with you. And I wasn't the only one. So did the commentators. Pierre Gasly took a wee bit of a spin. I think it was at turn 1. And the commentators were like, oh, there goes the McLaren. It wasn't the McLaren. It was the Alpine. So, very confusing. The McLaren looks gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous in the sun. That chrome, just beautiful. As I said, not much really to talk about for a lot of the first sort of half of the session. It was almost like the first 30 to 40 minutes was your sort of long runs, and then it went into let's get changed onto the soft boots and let's go sort of qualifying, see what can happen there. The only things really of note that we need to talk about from during the session, Zhou Guanyu lost power. Well, he was complaining that he lost power as he was coming back into the pits, and they told him, you know, keep the car in gear, which makes me think it's a hydraulic issue. But Ted Kravitz did say that when he'd gotten into the garage, they started pulling the car apart. Fingers crossed, they should be able to get the car fixed for the qualifying in a couple of hours. Piastri had a very strange moment, and we were sort of riding on the nose cone of the car, and that was where we could sort of, the camera angle was, and he decided to come into the pit, and he was carrying way too much speed coming around that corner, and very nearly crashed into the barrier, had to abort his entry into the pits, and just went back out onto the track. Had that been anything other than a practice session, it would have been deemed an unsafe rejoining onto the track, an unsafe rejoin. I actually think he got a black and white flag. Not really as fast as what I thought they would be. I kind of expected them to be a bit quicker. It didn't look like the car that we're so used to seeing that's been so dominant recently. So I'm not really too sure what's happened there. It's obviously one of the teams that's brought track-specific upgrades, track-specific changes to the car. And Lando, I believe, is running some upgrades. So yeah, it just doesn't seem like the car that we're used to. They finished the session 4th and 5th, Norris 4th, Piastri 5th, respectively. So not what I thought they would be. I generally thought they'd be 1 and 2. 100%. As I said, it is only practice, but it is the only practice session. So handling seemed to be a bit of an issue for a lot of the drivers. Mostly the Mercedes. I don't know, but I'm quite worried that they're going to have a really hard weekend because they were struggling with that car. Both Lewis and George just really struggling. Spins, you name it, just constant. Hamilton had a very high speed spin at the first sort of weaving S's that are based off Maggots and Beckett's just after the turn 1 hill. He very lucky not to have had an accident. Definitely ruined a set of tyres. He thought he might have a bit of floor damage. We haven't heard anything, so I'm assuming the car's fine. And that was towards the beginning of the session, so he did manage to complete it. But yeah, not what he wanted. George Russell also was having issues at the same time. That sort of same place. I think just after Hamilton. I think it was like literally about 30 seconds after Hamilton. I think the hairpin of turn 8. Is that turn 8? Let me look at my track map. No, it's turn 11. The hairpin at turn 11 also seemed to be catching a couple of drivers out. I think Russell ended up going really wide there. And then Russell into turn 1 had a bit of a moment and he spun round and then started rolling back down the hill towards turn 2. The Mercedes definitely just seems like a bit of a handful this weekend, and I'll be intrigued to see what happens in the sprint shootout that, as I said, is in a couple of hours, because maybe my prediction of the return of the safety car is going to happen this weekend, because there is quite a few of the drivers that are struggling out in those cars, I shall say. That was all the sort of spins and sort of moments of note. So let's go into the timings of this session and where everyone sort of fell, because that is where I'm interested. This is where I'm entering, I'm boarding the Delulu train and I'm leaving the station. So kicking things off at the bottom, I'm not surprised that Bottas is down there. Zhou obviously retired from the session. Colapinto, quite surprised to see Colapinto down there. I just expect him to be up and around the sort of points position. So it was quite weird to see him down there. He's 1.64 seconds, over 1.5 seconds off the pace. That man will get his elbows out. There was a moment between George Russell where they were both about to start their fast laps, and George was like trying to get past him, and Franco was like, "No, I'm also trying to do this. So will you back the off?" So not great for them, to be honest with you. Lawson's return, didn't really see much of Lawson. He had no real moments of note. I think we got about maybe one lap that we followed him with. He's currently sitting P13. Not a bad place, to be honest with you. However, his teammate is sitting P10. Lawson is about a tenth and a half behind Yuki. So, do you know what? That's not... I'm going to say it's not that bad. And people may say otherwise, but I don't think it's too bad. Alonso finished the session P9. Stroll was P15. Again, not really anything that surprises me. Now, here's where my surprises are coming. Hamilton and Russell P6, P7, fine. Norris and Piastri P4, P5. P3 is Max Verstappen, who was 2.5 tenths off P1. Where do you think Sergio Perez finished? Where do you think? Guess. I'm excited to see what you think. Do you know where he finished? P16. He was 1.036 seconds off the pace. He was over a second off the pace. And his teammate is 2.5 tenths. Like, I just don't understand it. And even when, like, Max was the first person to put in, like, a proper, actual fast lap time. So he went to the top of the timesheets. And then Perez went out for his quali run on softs, his fast run on his soft tyres. And he set the exact same time that Carlos Sainz did on hards when Carlos Sainz topped the timesheets on a hard tyre. Like, Perez on softs couldn't beat the Ferrari on hards. Something about that isn't right. Yeah, like, I just don't understand it. And I know I said he was going to bounce back this weekend. Just keep it to yourself, all right? Oh, Perez, I just don't think he's going to have a great weekend now. Can I retract? Can I retract my prediction, please? I would like to rip up that prediction and throw it in the goddamn bin. But as obviously it's practice, maybe he bounces back. Who knows? P1, P2 is my Ferrari boys. Charles and Carlos. Oh, yeah. So, topping the timesheets was Carlos Sainz with a time of a 1:33.602. Well done. And 200ths of a second behind him was Charles Leclerc. Oh, yeah. I was very surprised to see just how well the Ferraris were doing. They definitely looked like, in this session, they looked like the car to beat. They seemed to be having no real issues. They were driving smooth laps. Everything just seemed to be working all right. So, could a Ferrari win this weekend? I don't know, because I could have said maybe something similar in Singapore, but then the performance just dropped off. And Anthony Davidson did say on the Sky broadcast that maybe, most likely, the performance of the Ferrari will begin to drop off as the weekend progresses. I really hope it doesn't, at least not today, because I don't think I could handle it with this hangover, to be honest with you. I need good results from them because I don't feel like crying, to be completely honest with you. Very intrigued to see how they qualify in the sprint shootout. All right, that is everything from the first free practice session. Sorry, the only free practice session this weekend, and that is everything from us just now. We will be back tomorrow. We'll be back on Saturday after the sprint shootout, because it doesn't start in the UK till about 10:30. I don't know if I'm going to record tonight straight after it or tomorrow morning. Who knows? We'll see. But that episode will be going live tomorrow because I will be going to bed as fast as I can today. But that is everything from us. I hope you enjoy the sprint shootout. I'm very excited. It's so good to have Formula One cars back on track. I have missed the vroom vroom. I have missed the sound of an F1 car. All right, now I'm just waffling on. So goodbye. I will see you after the sprint shootout. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the cars on track. Love you. Bye.